Just some insight about me. I'm a 19-year-old male with a decent body build from Florida. I live in a rural area where my house is surrounded by trees and it's a long way from here to a bus stop. I usually jog on my way there and take a bus to my university, which I didn't have enough to afford housing there. I was late to class by about 5 minutes. I took my seat and started to prepare my notes and listen to the professor. I was opening a book when I hear a group of students by me talking about how there was some horrible shit on the internet and that he ordered some weed and LSD. I was interested in what they were saying, but not about the weed, about how there are other stuff that cannot be found with your typical search engine. Just about the class was about to end, I heard one of them saying that his buddy should download the search engine called Tor. His friend complied and said they'd meet later, and they'd have another class to attend. They parted ways, and I was entirely intrigued about this Tor browser. I finally finished my classes for the day, and started to head home. I'd take my usual route, jog to the bus stop, take the bus to the closest station to my house, and I'd jog the rest of the way back. I entered the house and ran to my room, curious on what they were talking about. I turned on my computer and directly searched Tor browser and installed it. Before I went on, I did some research about it, and that it's best if I install a VPN to keep my IP hidden. I also stumbled upon how that's where the deep web lies, and that it's a place no one should visit. My curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to proceed. I turned on the VPN and launched Tor and found some links. I went to each of them, and they were the typical drugstore, government secrets, and your average firearms dealer. But that's when I opened the next link, which led me to a blank site. There was nothing in the page until the words popped up. If you are not familiar with this site, leave. If you were led here, please proceed. And the buttons leave/proceed popped up on the screen. I thought to myself, what could go wrong? And curiosity once again got the best of me. I clicked on proceed and a small chat box popped up. There was a single admin and about 11 other viewers. I decided not to type and wait and watch what all of this was about. And just as I looked away, a video popped up. It was a man whose arms and legs were nailed all the way through to keep him in place. There was blood pouring from the places he was nailed. I felt a bit sick and thought this was just some cleverly edited video. The man's face was completely blank. Suddenly, a door in the background opened slowly. What popped up was a man with a mask that left me speechless. It was the exact same face of a guy nailed to the chair, expressionless and blank. I felt sick and decided to leave, but the exit button was nowhere to be found. These freaks disabled my close button. Then, what I saw next in the chat made my stomach drop.
Wanting to leave so soon?
I thought to myself, how did he know I wanted to leave? He posted a picture of me in the chat. I immediately threatened to call the cops, and that was the worst decision of my life. He then threatened to come over to my house and kidnap me, or he would slit my throat if I tried to resist. He then proceeded to type my full name, address, where I'm studying, and where my other family members live. The chat then told the man in the mask to show me what he would do to me if he came to my house. He started to run his knife through the helpless man's neck and began to remove body parts, just like a butcher, cutting up some meat. I quickly removed the power cable of the computer and took it out and destroyed the computer so he couldn't reach me. I thought to myself, how on earth was he able to find my name and where I lived if I had a VPN on? I felt a buzz in my pocket. My phone was ringing. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and saw a blank caller ID. I immediately hung up, and what came next was a gut-wrenching feeling. He sent me a text saying, "You're next." And I thought this was just some bullshit. I kept a 9mm handgun concealed in my house just in case of a robbery. I couldn't sleep through the night thinking that someone was watching me, ready to make their move. Luckily, I fell asleep, and nothing much happened that night. I woke up, took my typical routine, and headed to university. I always lock all the doors and windows in my house, and I don't usually forget to do so. It was just a regular day. I took my courses for the day and heard those other boys from yesterday saying the shit they did in the deep web. I went home exhausted, since I barely got enough sleep because of what happened the same night. Walking to the doorstep, I felt something was off and decided to shrug it off. I tried unlocking the door, but it wouldn't budge. That's when I realized it. The door wouldn't unlock because it was already unlocked. I shrugged it off, thinking I just forgot to lock it since I didn't get any sleep. I walked in, then locked the door behind me. I felt like something was watching me. You know, you can sometimes feel someone stare. Yeah, that's exactly what I felt. I go around the house, looking in the closets, corners, you name it, but nothing was there. I thought to myself that it was just due to the lack of sleep. I go to take a quick shower and get to bed. Once I doze off, I was awoken 6 hours later to the sound of a crack and a bump. It came from the bathroom. Thinking that it could be the weirdo from the deep web, I thought to myself, no way. I locked all the doors and windows, and if someone opened the door or a window, I would have instantly woke up since they are loud, and I'm a light sleeper. I went to check on it, and it was written on the mirror, large capital letters with a deep red color, and had the texture of what looked like blood. It said, "Look outside." I immediately looked outside my window and saw a large dark figure standing out by a tree. That's when it hit me. 2 other shadowy figures popped off from the other tree. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 as fast as I can whilst running down, making sure every door was locked. I look outside another time, and when I see another 4 dark figures pop up from the trees. There was a total of 7 men outside hiding within the trees. The 911 operator finally picked up and obviously asked what my emergency was. This is how it went.
911? What's your emergency?
Get the cops over. There are 7 men outside my house walking closer every second.
What is so suspicious of these men?
They're fucking holding butcher knives.
Okay, what's your address?
Insert random address here. I stumbled in the house, running like a maniac, remembering that I kept a 9mm concealed inside. I go to grab the gun, and I hear an extremely loud bang outside my door. I go look through the peephole, and it was just one of them. He shouted with his deep voice,
"Open up."
I told him that I had already called the cops, and that I was armed. That's when I lost all hope of security and safety. I heard 6 windows being smashed in, and the men jumping through, making a loud thud after hopping in. I instantly thought that my best chance of survival was to run to the bathroom and lock myself in it. I heard the men slowly walking up the stairs, making a creaking sound after every step. That's when it all went down. I thought that if I were to go, I wouldn't go without a fight. I started screaming once more that I was armed, and if they came to the door, I would open fire. That's when relief struck me as hard as a rock. I saw the blue and red lights come from outside the bathroom window. With their sirens blasting as loud as it could, the men instantly ran downstairs and jumped out of the window. They broke in, running straight for the woods behind the house. The police saw the men running into the woods and sent a couple of officers with canines chasing the men. The rest came in the house looking for me and concerned for my safety. Luckily, I was still alive. Just a few scratches and bruises from clumsily running around the house, looking for a stop to increase my chance of survival. After the cops offered me a place to stay in some crappy motel, just so I wouldn't have to stay in my house. Immediately after that day, I got rid of all my belongings and moved out of state. I now live in California. Basically, a new life, I would say. And I never had to go through what happened again. I never saw the men or anyone stalking me since I left Florida. I hope we never meet again. I'm sure you've heard about the deep web before. Heard stories of gruesome things happening on there. People meeting up to do deranged things in person. You simply wonder if it's real or not. I was one of those people. When I first heard about about the deep web back in 2014. I thought it was a joke. It sounded like Charlotte's Web. But it was no joke. I kept clicking on YouTube videos, reading blogs, hearing more and more about the deep web. I contemplated downloading Tor after reading the stories about the deep web, but backed out at the last second. I guess you can say I was too scared. Too scared of potentially being caught by the FBI for looking at the forbidden pages on the internet. Yeah, sounds stupid, right? But I thought about it, and that scared feeling turned into doubt. I'm known for being a skeptical person, but I just brushed off my scared feelings and convinced myself that I wasn't scared, but just skeptical. Very, very skeptical. Fast forward to last month. It's been almost 4 years since I've heard about the deep web. Curiosity killed the cat. I decided at that moment that I was going to surf the deep web. I told myself I wouldn't do it. The contradicting thoughts lasted for several minutes. In the end, I said screw it and downloaded Tor. I went into the deep web on January 8th, 2018. It was 9 p.m. when I downloaded it and installed Tor. When I opened up Tor for the first time, it reminded me of my DSL days. People weren't lying when they said Tor was slow. It was now 9:05 p.m. Tor has officially opened and loaded. And now I can access all of the deep web. Disturbing content that exists. I was brought to the hidden wiki, which is like the deep web for dummies. I clicked on one of the links, which brought me to a chat room. Harmless, to say the least. There were 30 people in the chat room, talking about very random things. I didn't stay and chat though. I exited out and continued browsing. Over the next half hour, I was clicking links as if they were candy. I found a multitude of things that were quite beneficial for me. There wasn't anything disturbing, or so I thought. As I exited one of the links and went back to the hidden wiki to click on another, a pop-up came up. Please click here for a treat. I closed it immediately. I knew better than that to open up pop-ups. I also thought I was hacked because I wondered why there was a pop-up. But my stupidity revealed I had the pop-up blocker off. So I turned it on and kept browsing. But then it popped up again. Please click here for a treat. It said the exact same thing. I was perplexed. Before I clicked on the link, I hovered over it to see what showed up on the bottom of the screen. You know, ever have one of those times it says it's Google, but it's actually links to tiny URL? I wanted to make sure it wasn't clickbait. YLB2OU1EDEWA4DLI.onion. That was the link. I felt safe, so I clicked it. It brought me to a blank screen. I made sure the page was finished loading, and sure enough it had. I thought something was going to pop up, so I stayed on the page. I remained on there for another 30 seconds before exiting the screen. Shrugged it off as a glitch in the Matrix. Not even 10 seconds after closing the window, it came up again. The same URL, the same text. It was as if someone was playing a trick on me. But I was curious, so I clicked on the link again. This time, there was text. It was on a blank white screen, written in deep blue lettering. 2-14. 2-14? After a few seconds, I realized it was a date. February 14th. Valentine's Day. Okay, so maybe I'm finally gonna find out who my soulmate is. Maybe I'm gonna get kissed, which leads me to finding out who my soulmate is? I was quite confused and perplexed to say the least. Then, the text disappears. Again, a blank screen is shown, until another set of deep blue letters pop up.
You will be dead.
Is this a joke? I'm going to die on Valentine's Day? I told myself that can't happen. It's impossible. Who's going to kill me? And then the text disappears. I felt spooked, so I closed the window. disconnected Tor, uninstalled Tor, and turned off the internet for that night. I forgot about it and just dismissed it as a sick joke. Or at least I forgot about it until this morning. There's 4 more days until Valentine's Day. This morning, I heard a knock on the door as I was getting my breakfast ready but didn't bother answering. I waited a few minutes before looking out the peephole to see that there was nobody out there. I opened the door and saw an envelope in front of my feet. I picked up the envelope, closed the door, and sat on my couch. As I opened it up to see what was inside, "You will be dead on Valentine's Day." No, this is a joke," I said as I kept shaking my head in rejection. Then the phone rang. I was shaky at this point and a bit on edge, but I answered the phone anyway. "Hello?" I said with a bit of shivering in my voice.
You will be dead. 2:14.
The voice said as it got progressively creepier and deeper. As quickly as they said those words, the phone disconnected. I put the phone down and began to pace across my living room. I decided to take a deep breath and go back on the internet. As I opened up Gmail, I saw that I had an unread message. It had no name and no subject line. All it had was a link. It wasn't just an ordinary link either. It was a link that you can only access on Tor. YLB 2OU 1ED EWA 4DLI.onion. Wait, I said to myself. I've recognized that link somewhere. It took a bit of time to figure out what it was, and then it dawned on me. That was the link I clicked on last month while on the deep web. I just couldn't figure out if this was a generic link or if it had any meaning. I spent the next 2 hours searching the link up. I tried to figure out if this had any meaning, if there was any ulterior motive. I couldn't find anything. Then I got the inspiration to look up an anagram solver. I decided to place the link minus the .onion and see what came up. It took a minute or so to load. What came up gave me a heart attack and made me crap my pants. "You will be dead, 2:14. I basically sat there in silence for what seemed like hours. I'm a major skeptic, so there's some reason for me to doubt that all of this is real. I'm still under all this suspicion that this is one big hoax, but at this point, I don't even know anymore.